So I'm kind of tongue in cheek of calling the next section "Get Me the Marshal," even though we're gonna talk about how to like politely ask for the Marshal and how to handle it correctly. So you had linked me to, and I'll put it in chat, a
Hmm.
Kotaku article that I believe, had also just like sent to me personally when we were talking about this right
Hmm.
around World's time. Um,
Yeah,
and
it's weirdly like an article, if I'm not mistaken, like Chris and I stumbled. Let me see if it has a timestamp. Like I ran into this like a year ago or something. Yeah, 2018. Um, I ran into it like a year ago, and I just thought it was super cool. Chris and I talk about like I follow Magic. I don't play it anymore, but like I just follow it because it's interesting. I follow their ban list and to see what they ban because they keep such better data. But anyway, I thought this was super cool. So basically, they followed one of their pro players and they mic'd him up. And what they did is um, they mic'd him up and they just followed him around and they watched a lot of his games. So he's at a top table. So this article talks about a lot the whole thing, but
mhm.
in they also have a link to one of the videos. Or anyway, he's at a top table where they have a head judge, sort of like in X-Wing games where they have a head, not head judge, but a judge monitoring that table, right?
Mhm.
When you're in a top 8, top 16, etc. So anyway, a judge steps in and tries to correct a game state, saying, "Hey, actually, no, this didn't happen." So he starts immediately going, "Oh, sorry," and he starts like doing it, and he goes, "Wait, stop." And he says, "Wait, I think that's wrong." And he literally walks the judge. He's like, "Actually, I don't think that's right." He corrects the judge, and he says, "Look, this is what happened. Blah 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 blah." He's like, "This is this, and then I did this, and then he did this, and then I did this, this, and this," and then he, it's like slowly but politely like walks the judge through what happened and corrects the judge, and then the judge goes, "Oh, okay, never mind, go on." Like he didn't just accept the judge's ruling basically, and it's a perfect example of like how to have a judge interaction and correct a judge when a judge is wrong, right?
Mhm.
Because again, that would have been again he was correct. He showed the judge how he's correct, and he did it in a nice, polite, and clear and concise way. And it's a great. So read the article. It's a useful article.
And it has that video
Um,
in it too, doesn't it?
yeah, and it
I
has the
believe it
video.
does.
That's
Yeah.
the key thing. But that helps you with the context of what's going on because the article also discusses the video. Um, but it's worth talking about. So speaking of self advocacy, there are possibilities where a judge ruling is wrong and potentially a marshal ruling is wrong, or at least initially, right? Once the final ruling happens from a marshal, you're SOL, right? So what to do about it in the moment? So first, um, it's okay to disagree with a judge, and it's okay to call the marshal to escalate to a marshal. But before you do that, it's okay to politely disagree with the judge and to walk them through the issue, right?
Mhm.
Actually, this is what has happened. This is going through here, whatever. It's always good to kind of walk a judge over the game state as you're trying to what you're calling them over to begin with.
Mhm.
So first, if they say something that sounds wrong, there's a chance they may have misunderstood what you said. So it's helpful to rephrase what it is or misunderstood the situation. Um, and there's also a chance that they could just be wrong. So a very common one that's coming up is TA-175, the pinata droid, the death bot,
Oh yeah. Token
tactical droid.
party. Yep.
Yeah. So the reason this has been coming up is so it has a on death trigger. And so the reason that has been coming up and being played wrong in some major tournaments is because the on death trigger is in two different the definition of destroyed and then the timing window of effects of on destroyed are in two different parts of the rules reference. So if you only read what defines as destroyed, you would get one implied definition. And if you just don't notice that like the effects of on destroyed is in a different part of the rules reference, you wouldn't know. Now, it isn't ambiguous, but if a judge only read one part and stopped, because unfortunately, I think FFG really needs to put those two next to each other in the rules reference. But for the now, they're not. Um, you can make the wrong ruling. So this actually happened. Man, Chris was telling me it happened in Poland. it definitely happened at Worlds in one of the rounds, where something happened that came over. The guy was trying to apply it on death, so he killed. So as the opponent, he killed one of the vultures. One of the vultures died. So the opponent starts pulling out the calculator. He's like, wait, like the rest of my, I have more ships at this initiative. You don't get the calculator. He's like, oh, well, it died, right? So he calls a judge over, and the judge goes, yeah, it died. So he gets all the calculates. He didn't escalate. He didn't try and correct, right? And that made that game way harder. Me too. I want that TA-71, TA-175.
Yeah.
I'm super in. Give me that bot. Like, man, I thought that Seer Swarm was good now. So what you need to do is, okay, so let's say you come over and the judge goes, no, that's how it works. You're like, wait, hold on 1 second. So in the rules reference, there's another section. Like, so the reason he knew it was wrong is he knew about this other section of the rules reference. So he doesn't have to know the page, right? So as we said in our things, like maybe the only reason you know is because you heard it on a podcast, like right now, right? So it's like escalated to the Marshal. Like, it's like, look, man, I heard it on this podcast. I don't think that's how it works. I heard that on effect of death triggers happen when the ship is removed, and ships are removed at the end of the initiative round, right? At the end of the initiative shots. And they don't agree with you. If they don't agree with you and you really feel it's wrong, you escalate to the Marshal, period. Turns out if he had escalated to the Marshal, the Marshal did know how the TA-175 worked. Most of the players at the tournament knew how it worked. It's okay that I don't think the player was not cheating. The player just only read this is ambiguous, just like your foresight. I don't think Paul LaRue was cheating. I think that he read it that one way, right? Like, that's the whole point. Like, a lot of the stuff is the way it works.
Yep.
And that's what we're getting at, is like, this judge was wrong, probably got corrected later. But what do? You know that judge is wrong, right? And like me, if I happen that, I even know, like, hey, look on death trigger. Like, I don't remember the rules reference page at the moment, right? But like, I know it's in there. You need to look here. Oh, no, that's not the way it works. Oh, okay. As soon as I hear that from a judge, be like, okay, neat. I need to talk to a Marshal. This is also where I'm instantly going to ask for my time extension at the end of this, because I've already escalated to a Marshal, right? So this is going to take time. So speaking of things, Travis is queuing in the back of his mind. I'm going to ask for the time extension at the end of all of this. But this is what we're talking about. If something doesn't sound right, this is a chance. By the way, this is not going to happen that often, but there's always these few chances. Like, again, like say the foresight, a new card comes out. I don't know. Most of the stuff is pretty solved at this point. But if this comes up and you think the Marshal or the judge is wrong on some sort of interaction or some sort of ruling, it's okay to disagree. And if it's a situation where you can correct them based on some facts that you think they are missing, you should tell them. That's the point. Don't hold it to yourself. Don't keep it secret. Like, this player didn't bother correcting the judge, didn't even volunteer the information, right? That would have been useful, right? The judge didn't want to make the wrong ruling, especially one probably ran into another game, got it escalated to the Marshal and was like, oops. Like,
yeah, and odds are, if you say something, they'll probably be like, you know what? I'm just going to go double check with the Marshal, which they probably should do anyway, just to make sure that at
that point, the guy probably just didn't see why it was wrong or had no reason to believe, right? Like, again, TA-175 is a particularly weird one, to be honest. For anyone listening, Sloan is the only one that skips the on-death timing window. It doesn't have an on-death timing window. Let me show you. Hold on. It's super weird. Hold on, yeah. Hold on. Come on, Yasby. Save me, Yasby. How many button clicks to the center of a Sloan? All right, Admiral Sloan. So after another ship defends, if it is destroyed, the attacker gains 2 stress tokens.
That's after it defends, right? Yeah, so okay.
So it just says if it is destroyed.
Right. So you do a health check at the end of the defending.
And and the attacker gains 2 stress tokens.
Do you think that maybe
after it's like a weird it's the only thing with that phrase. Sloan is the only card with that weird phrasing that gets around like, so like we talk about like zombie Biggs. So like if there's a bunch of things shooting,
Yep.
Biggs stays on the table at that weird
Forever.
initiative. Right.
Yep.
So like your Vulture Swarm still has to shoot Biggs or shoot through Biggs, stuff like that. Like Biggs stays on the table because he hasn't been removed. But Sloan has this weird timing window. Yeah. So it's just like, anyway, so it's just like there's not a lot of these things that come up. But again, the key is if you have a disagreement with the judge and you feel like the judge is mistaken for, and you have some sort of information, the key thing is most of the things we've discussed is sort of like when you're self-advocating, like, well, what do you mean? Like, do you like, there's a difference between self-advocating and just like clarifying. This is like clarifying, like, well, wait, that's not how TA 175 works. There's also this other part, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a mixture of self-advocating because you're not just accepting the ruling, but in this case, it's just clarifying something. Like, actually, I hear what you're saying, but like, you're actually missing part of the rules reference. You need to check this other piece real quick. Or actually, like, wait, you like, oh, well, it works this way, but wait, you missed that this person has a focus token, which changes how this card works. Oh, I did. You're right. Well, since they have a focus token, the card, you have to use the second part of this card's text. I agree. Right? Like things like that. Like the judge could have misinterpreted the game state, right? Like some cards work with or without calculating or like evading or something. You know what I'm saying? Like those kinds of triggers where like, wait, judge, actually this thing is on here. Do you agree? Yeah. So, but you should, like, the player, basically I'm saying that player was wrong for not speaking up.
Yeah.
Like not super wrong, but like there's no reason not to speak up, basically, right? And just say, wait, judge. And then or at least escalate to the marshal at a minimum.